DEBx, amplifying voices, accelerating change.
Please help me welcome to the DEBx stage, Trinh.
It's my first year in America. I'm 7 years old, and I'm in school writing Chinese characters. By the way, I'm Vietnamese, not Chinese. I have no idea how to write Chinese. But I was pretending. I was trying to make friends by impressing them. One girl in particular wasn't so impressed, though. She stands up, flips her hair, and says, "You're so weird," and walks away. I didn't know what that meant, but I knew it wasn't a compliment. I knew at 7 years old, I stuck out like a sore thumb. Not just because I looked different, but because I liked different foods and spoke a different language, and I came from a totally different world. Among the 300 kids in my elementary school, there were only 3 total Vietnamese Americans, and one was my sister. This was when life became about fitting in. That word weird, it means different things for different people. When I Googled the definition, it said strange and bizarre, something that people aren't typically aiming to be. Let's face it, when we say, "That's so weird," we're not usually talking about something positive. Weird for me meant not belonging, sticking out like a sore thumb, not feeling accepted. And it's influenced every single decision I've ever made. The concern about being weird has me holding back ideas, filtering my thoughts through my what's gonna sound the most likable filter. I assert that every person sitting in here has had a moment where you wanted to say something, or you had a really great idea, but you killed it almost immediately because you thought you might sound or look weird. And you've gotten so accustomed to it, you're not even aware you're doing it anymore. You probably saw this a lot in your teenage years. I mean, how many of us actually left our teen years unscathed? Back then we wanted to fit in. But those concerns don't exactly stay in those teen years, do they? And they stick around even as we get older. We go along with the group without question, while suppressing our own ideas and opinions. They can have a profound negative impact on who we are for ourselves and for those around us. And if you think about it, when we try to blend in, we aren't contributing to the world, and we limit our own self-expression. So recently, a young teenager shared a familiar story with me. She was in the mall with her sister when she noticed a young girl being touched inappropriately by a man that she assumed was her boyfriend. While she wanted to say something, she waved it off instead for fear of looking weird. Because who was she to step in? But her sister did, and yelled at the guy, "Don't do that." While the teen was very uncomfortable in that moment, she was also very proud of her sister. She knew that she wanted to be more like her and have the courage to step outside of her fear of looking weird and actually speak up. When I heard this story, it really hit a nerve that I thought that I put away a long time ago. I can relate to this girl's story because I dealt with something very similar myself. About 12 years ago, someone really close to me confided in me about being touched inappropriately by a mutual friend. I was shocked and filled with hatred. But beyond my hatred, I felt helpless to do anything about it. I mean, who was I to say something? My lack of action and helplessness filled me with shame every time I saw her. And I'd actually broken a promise to myself to be her protector. I wanted to say something or do something, but I never did. This shame eventually caused a rift in our relationship that was then loving. Anybody who stands out and expresses themselves freely when it matters are the exception, not the rule. They become the weird ones. But they end up being the ones who actually make a difference. You might have heard of Greta Thunberg. She's one of those exceptions. She's a 16-year-old Swedish environmental activist Last year, she started skipping school on Fridays to stand in front of the Swedish parliament in protest of climate inaction with a sign that said, "School strike for climate." She was asked to speak at the UN Climate Change Conference, and since then, millions of students have been in protest in a movement called Fridays for Future. In an interview, she shared that when she came to America across the Atlantic, rather than hopping on an overnight flight, she chose to arrive on a boat that produced zero emissions. Now, you might agree that any human being that would rather take a 15-day boat ride than hop on a quick overnight flight might be considered eccentric, to say the least. But her actions, weird as they might sound to others, have caused millions to take action in this cause. And one thing you might not know about Greta is that she also has Asperger's, which is on the autism spectrum. And for most people, any diagnosed condition might be a hindrance to their voice, but not in Greta's case. She calls it a neurological condition, or her neurological condition, a gift. She goes on to say, it can be an advantage to be neurodiverse. It makes you different and makes you think differently. In such a crisis like this one, we need to think outside the box, outside of the current system, and can't be like everyone else. Being quote-unquote weird is an opportunity to make a difference, to think outside the box. It's a unique platform for leadership. We can be outstanding if we're willing to stand out. So, where are you not standing out and being as outstanding as you can be? That leadership can be in your family, in school, at work, in your social circle, in public with total strangers. When we dare to be weird, to step out of the social line, it can have unimaginable results. Alex Borstein is an actress from the show The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. During her Emmy acceptance speech, she shared that her grandmother, while in line to be shot into a pit during the Holocaust, asked the guard, "What happens if I step out of line?" To which the guard replied, "I don't have a heart to shoot you, but someone will." And she stepped out of line. Because of that decision, Alex Borstein and her family are here today. I personally think that Steve Jobs said it best in his 1997 Apple commercial. Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify them, or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Do you know that weird in Old English originally meant having the power to control destiny? Ultimately, you either stick out like a sore thumb or you're controlling destiny. Either way, it's the same thing. Thank you.